The summer heat pressed down on Dusty Creek like a heavy blanket. Nothing moved fast in this small Kentucky town. Dogs slept under porches. Old trucks sat in driveways with their windows down. The population sign at the edge of town said 847, but that number had not changed in 20 years. Ho wiped sweat from his forehead and looked at his tractor. The engine had died again. He was 58 years old and he had been fixing this same tractor since he came back from Vietnam. His hands were rough from decades of farm work. His back hurt most mornings, but he never complained. Complaining did not fix tractors. His daughter Ben drove up in her old pickup truck. She was 32, with strong arms and grease under her fingernails. She ran the only auto repair shop in town. Before that, she had spent 8 years in the Army as a mechanic. She could fix anything with an engine. "Tractor again?" she asked. "Fuel line," Ho said, "I think." Ben looked at the engine. "I think you need a new tractor." "This one still works." "Does it?" Ho smiled. This was an old argument between them. He liked old things. She liked things that actually worked. Across town, Sheriff drove his patrol car down Main Street. He was 45, with gray at his temples and calm eyes that had seen plenty of trouble. He waved at old Mr. Park, who was sweeping the sidewalk outside his hardware store. He nodded at young Sung, who was reading comic books behind the counter at the gas station. Knew everyone in Dusty Creek. He knew their names, their families, their problems. He had been sheriff for 15 years. In that time, he had dealt with bar fights, stolen farm equipment, and one very confused black bear that wandered into the elementary school. He had never fired his weapon in the line of duty. He hoped he never would. One's diner sat at the center of town. The sign outside said "One's Place" in faded red letters. Inside, the air smelled like coffee and fried chicken. One herself was 71 years old, with white hair pulled back in a tight bun. She had opened this diner 40 years ago, right after her husband died. She had raised 3 children in the kitchen while cooking for the whole town. Now her children had moved away to big cities, but one stayed. This was her home. These people were her family. "More coffee, Sheriff?" she asked as sat at the counter. "Please, ma'am." She poured the coffee. "Quiet day." "Too quiet," said, "makes me nervous." One laughed. "You worry too much." 300 miles above the Earth, Commander stood on the bridge of his warship and looked down at the blue planet. He was tall and thin, with gray skin and 4 eyes that blinked in sequence. He had conquered 12 worlds for the Empire. This would be his 13th. "Report," he said. Sub-Commander stepped forward. He was shorter than, with darker skin and a nervous way of moving. "The erasure protocol is ready, Commander. We have selected a test site." A holographic map appeared in the air. It showed a small cluster of buildings surrounded by forests and fields. "What is this place?" asked. "A small settlement called Dusty Creek. Population, 847 life forms. Isolated location, primitive technology, no military presence, perfect for testing." Smiled, his teeth were sharp and white. "Excellent. We will erase this settlement quietly. When the humans realize what happened, it will be too late. Their world will fall without a fight." Technician watched from her station. She was young for her species, with curious eyes and quick fingers. Her job was to analyze data. Right now, the data worried her. "Commander," she said quietly, "the life forms in this area show unusual readings. High metabolism, dense muscle structure. They appear to be adapted for extreme conditions." Waved his hand dismissively. "They are farmers. They grow food in dirt. What threat could they possibly pose?" Wanted to say more. She had studied humans. She knew they came from a harsh world with high gravity, extreme temperatures, and dangerous predators. The technical term was, but she also knew that did not like being questioned, so she stayed silent. The sun was setting over Dusty Creek when the lights appeared. They came from above, bright and strange, like nothing anyone had ever seen. People stepped out of their homes and looked up at the sky. Ho was still working on his tractor when the engine died completely. Not just stopped, died. Every light on the machine went dark. "What the hell?" he muttered. Bin tried to start her truck. Nothing, not even a click from the ignition. All across town, every electronic device stopped working. Phones went silent. Televisions turned black. Cars would not start. Even battery-powered flashlights flickered and died. Then came the barrier. It rose from the ground like a wall of shimmering light. It surrounded the entire town in a perfect circle. When Sung threw a rock at it, the rock bounced back. When Mr. Park tried to walk through it, he hit something solid and invisible. They were trapped. People gathered at one's diner because that was what people did in Dusty Creek when something strange happened. Within an hour, half the town was there, talking and arguing and trying to understand. "Government experiment," someone said. "Terrorists," said another. "It came from the sky," old Mrs. said. "I saw it. Those lights came from space." Ho stood near the window looking out at the barrier. His face was calm, but his mind was racing. He had seen strange things in the war. He had learned to trust his instincts, and right now his instincts were screaming. "Whatever it is," he said, "it ain't natural and it ain't friendly." Sheriff pushed through the crowd. "Everyone stay calm. We will figure this out. Sung, can you get a signal on your radio?" Sung shook his head. "Everything is dead, Sheriff. No signal at all." "Then we wait," said. "We wait and we watch." They did not have to wait long. The first alien scouts descended from the sky just after midnight. There were 3 of them, tall and gray, with 4 eyes and weapons that glowed blue. They landed in the middle of Main Street like they owned it. Was the first to see them. He had been patrolling, unable to sleep. He stopped his useless car and stepped out, his rifle in his hands. The lead scout activated something on its wrist. A mechanical voice spoke in perfect English. "Attention, primitive life forms. You have been selected for termination. Surrender now and your deaths will be painless. Resist and you will suffer." Looked at the alien. He looked at his rifle. He thought about his town, his people, everyone he had sworn to protect. Then he raised his weapon and took aim. "Mister," he said calmly, "you picked the wrong town." The shot echoed through the empty street like thunder. The lead alien dropped to the ground before it could react. Its blue blood spread across the pavement in a dark pool. The 2 remaining scouts stood frozen for a moment. They had traveled across galaxies. They had helped conquer 12 worlds. They had never seen anyone fight back like this. Did not give them time to recover. He fired again, hitting the second scout in the chest. The creature stumbled backward but did not fall. Some kind of shield flickered around its body, absorbing the impact. "Shields," muttered. "Of course they have shields." The third scout raised its weapon. A beam of blue light shot toward. He dove behind his patrol car just in time. The beam hit the car and melted through the door like it was made of butter. Then more shots rang out. From the rooftops, from the windows, from behind trucks and trees, the people of Dusty Creek opened fire. They had heard the first shot. They had grabbed their guns, and they had come running. This was Kentucky. Everyone had guns. Hunting rifles, shotguns, pistols, old military weapons passed down from fathers to sons. The aliens had expected to find helpless farmers. Instead, they found an armed population that knew how to shoot. The 2 remaining scouts tried to retreat. Their shields flickered under the sustained fire, weakening with each impact. One of them made it 10 steps before a shotgun blast caught it in the leg, where the armor was thin. It fell and did not get up. The last scout ran. It actually ran, fleeing into the darkness toward the barrier. The people of Dusty Creek let it go. They had made their point. Commander received the report on his ship and refused to believe it. 3 scouts, he said, killed by primitives with chemical propellant weapons. Sub-Commander shifted nervously. The weapons appear to be more effective than our initial assessment suggested, Commander. The humans also showed unexpected coordination and aggression. They are farmers, shouted. His 4 eyes burned with anger. They grow food, they raise animals. They should be cowering in their shelters, begging for mercy. Technician watched from her station. She had pulled up more data on humans. What she found disturbed her deeply. Humans were persistent hunters. They could run for hours without stopping. They could survive injuries that would kill most species. They had evolved on a world full of predators and natural disasters. Violence was in their blood. But did not want to hear this, wanted victory. Send a full squad, the commander ordered. 20 soldiers, heavy weapons, end this now. In Dusty Creek, the townspeople gathered in one's diner to plan their defense. The tables had been pushed aside. Maps of the town were spread across the counter. Everyone talked at once until Ho raised his hand. Silence fell. People respected Ho. He was a veteran. He had seen real combat. When he spoke, people listened. They will come back, he said simply. More of them with bigger weapons. We need to be ready. Sheriff nodded. I have counted 32 rifles, 15 shotguns, and about 40 pistols in town. We have enough ammunition for now, but we cannot waste it. Ben stepped forward. I got a look at the dead ones. Their armor has weak points, joints neck under the arms, aim for those spots. How do we beat the shields? Someone asked. Keep shooting, Ben said. The shields get weaker with each hit. Enough bullets will break through. One came out of the kitchen carrying a pot of coffee and a box of ammunition. Both were equally important right now. We need to protect the children, she said. Put them in the church basement. Thick walls, no windows. The town veterinarian raised her hand. She was 38 with practical eyes and steady hands. I can set up a medical station. I usually work on animals, but wounds are wounds. I can handle it. Ho looked around the room. He saw fear in some faces, but he saw something else too, determination. These people had built this town with their own hands. They had survived floods, droughts, and hard winters. They were not going to give up their home without a fight. He said, You know this land better than anyone. Where are the best defensive positions? Thought for a moment. Main Street is too open. But if we pull back to the old mill, we have high ground and good cover. The aliens will have to come through the valley to reach us. Then that is where we fight, Ho said. They worked through the night. Men and women carried supplies to the old mill. They built barricades from farm equipment and old cars. They positioned shooters on the roof and in the windows. They dug trenches in the soft earth. Sung sat in the corner with his ham radio, desperately trying to reach anyone outside the barrier. The signal was weak, broken by whatever technology powered the alien shield, but he kept trying. He was 24 years old, and he had never done anything important in his life. Now he might be the only hope his town had. Dawn came gray and cold. The people of Dusty Creek waited in their positions, watching the sky. The aliens came at noon. 20 soldiers marched down the main road in perfect formation. They wore heavy armor and carried weapons that glowed with deadly energy. Behind them walked 2 tall machines, like metal spiders with guns mounted on their backs. Sub-Commander led the assault. He was determined to succeed where the scouts had failed. He would crush these primitives and present their bodies to Commander as trophies. Advance, he ordered. Kill everything that moves. The first shots came from the mill. Bullets rained down on the alien formation. Shields flickered to life, blocking the initial barrage. The aliens returned fire, sending beams of blue light toward the human positions. But the humans were smart. They did not stay in one place. They fired and moved, using the terrain to their advantage. The aliens struggled to track targets that kept appearing and disappearing. One young farmer named led a group of 5 into the woods. They circled around behind the alien formation, and opened fire from the trees. 3 soldiers fell before they could turn around. The spider machines advanced toward the mill. Their guns cut through the barricades like paper. For a moment, it seemed like nothing could stop them. Then Bin appeared with a truck loaded with propane tanks. She drove straight at the nearest machine, jumped out at the last second, and rolled into a ditch. The truck crashed into the spider and exploded in a ball of orange fire. When the smoke cleared, the machine was a twisted wreck. The second machine turned to face this new threat. But while it was distracted, a group of farmers hit it with everything they had. Hundreds of bullets struck the same spot on its armor until the metal cracked and something inside exploded. Sub-Commander watched in disbelief as his forces crumbled. 7 soldiers down, both machines destroyed, and the humans kept fighting, kept shooting, kept refusing to die. "Retreat," he finally ordered. "Retreat." The surviving aliens pulled back, leaving their dead behind. The people of Dusty Creek cheered from the mill, their voices echoing across the valley. On the ship, Commander listened to his report in cold silence. "They are not just farmers," said quietly. "They are warriors, all of them." Technician finally spoke up. "Commander, humans are classified as they evolved on a planet with high gravity, extreme weather, and constant danger. They are built for survival, for violence. We underestimated them." Stared at the holographic map of the small town that had humiliated him. His pride burned like fire in his chest. "Then we stop underestimating them," he said. "Prepare the heavy assault units. I will lead the next attack myself." In Dusty Creek, Ho examined one of the fallen alien weapons. It was beautiful in a strange way, all smooth curves and glowing circuits. He tried to fire it, but nothing happened. "Needs their handprint or something," Bin guessed. Ho set the weapon aside and picked up his old hunting rifle. It was scratched and dented, held together with tape in some places, but it had never failed him. "Fine," he said. "We will do this the old-fashioned way." Night fell over Dusty Creek like a dark blanket. The barrier still shimmered at the edge of town, trapping everyone inside. No help was coming. No escape was possible. They were on their own. Ho walked through the town, checking on everyone. People were tired but not broken. Some slept in shifts while others kept watch. Children huddled in the church basement, looked after by the elderly and the wounded. At the hardware store, Mr. Park had organized all the supplies. Nails, wire, fuel, tools, anything that could be used as a weapon or to build defenses. His hands shook with age, but his mind was sharp. "We have enough propane for maybe 2 more trucks," he told Ho. "After that, we need new ideas." "We will think of something," Ho said. "We always do." Bin had dragged one of the destroyed alien machines back to her shop. She worked through the night, taking it apart piece by piece. The technology was beyond anything she had ever seen, but machines were machines. They all had weaknesses. "Found it," she said to herself around 3 in the morning. The machine ran on a crystal about the size of her fist that glowed with soft blue light. When she touched it, she could feel heat radiating from inside. Not warm, hot, almost burning. "Heat sensitive," she muttered. "These things do not like fire." She wrote down everything she learned and gave copies to everyone who could fight. Knowledge was a weapon too. The aliens did not attack that night. They were waiting, planning, gathering strength, but the people of Dusty Creek did not waste the time. The young farmer who had led the ambush in the woods organized a scouting party. He took 4 others into the forest to watch the alien positions. They moved silently, using skills learned from years of hunting deer and wild boar. What they found worried them. The aliens had set up a camp at the north edge of the barrier. More soldiers were arriving from the ship. Heavy equipment was being assembled. Something big was coming. Reported back to Ho at dawn. 50 soldiers now, he said. Maybe more. And they have bigger machines, 4 of them, twice the size of the ones we destroyed. Ho nodded slowly. Then we cannot meet them head-on. We need to be smarter. Sheriff spread out a map of the county. He had drawn the alien positions in red, their own positions in blue. The picture was not good. They control the open ground, he said. But we control the forest, the creek, and the old mine tunnels. If we can draw them into the terrain we know, we have a chance. One brought breakfast to the planning meeting. Eggs, bacon, biscuits. She had kept her diner running through everything. People needed to eat. People needed normal things, even in abnormal times. My grandmother survived the Japanese occupation, she said as she poured coffee. She told me stories. The enemy always has more weapons, more soldiers, more power, but they do not know the land. They do not know the people. That is how you win. Ho looked at the old woman with respect. You are right, we know every inch of this place. They know nothing. The plan was simple. Do not fight on alien terms. Make them fight on human terms. Small groups would strike alien patrols and then disappear. Lead them into swamps where their machines would sink. Ambush them in the narrow creek beds where they could not use their numbers. Hit them from the old mine tunnels and vanish before they could respond. It was guerrilla warfare. Ho knew it well. The first strike came at noon. A group of 5 farmers attacked an alien patrol near the old bridge. They killed 2 soldiers and wounded 3 more before melting back into the forest. The aliens gave chase but lost them in the thick trees. The second strike came 2 hours later. Sung, who knew the creek better than anyone, led 3 aliens into a deep section where the water reached his chest. The aliens, with their heavy armor, sank even deeper. They struggled to move while Sung and his friends fired from the banks. By sunset, the aliens had lost 11 more soldiers without ever seeing their attackers properly. Commander was furious. How, he screamed at Subcommander, how are primitives defeating trained soldiers? Had no answer. Everything they did, the humans countered. Every tactic they tried, the humans adapted. It was like fighting ghosts. Technician approached carefully. Commander, I have been studying their patterns. They are using the terrain against us. Our scanners cannot track them in the dense vegetation. Our vehicles cannot operate in the soft ground. They know this place. We do not. Then burn it, said coldly. Burn the forest, burn their hiding places, burn everything. The heavy assault began the next morning. 4 massive walkers, each standing 30 feet tall, marched toward Dusty Creek. They fired not bullets but streams of superheated plasma that set everything they touched on fire. The forest burned, the fields burned, houses at the edge of town burned. One's diner took a direct hit. The front wall collapsed in a shower of brick and glass. One herself was inside, trying to save her supplies. A beam fell and pinned her leg. Found her 10 minutes later, conscious but trapped. Leave me, she said through gritted teeth. Save the town. Ignored her. He lifted the beam with strength he did not know he had and carried her to safety. Her leg was broken, but she was alive. Stubborn fool, she said. Learned it from you, he replied. The walkers continued their advance. Nothing seemed to stop them. Bullets bounced off their armor. Explosions barely scratched them. But Ben had been waiting. She had spent all night building something new. 4 homemade bombs, each packed with farm chemicals designed to burn hotter than anything natural. She called them her special recipe. The crystals do not like heat, she reminded everyone. We need to make things very, very hot. The attack was coordinated perfectly. First, a group of shooters drew the walkers toward the old mill. Then, as the machines entered the narrow valley, hidden teams threw the bombs at their legs. The explosions were massive. Orange fire turned white, then blue, metal melted, circuits fried. One walker collapsed immediately, its crystal core cooking inside its chest. A second walker staggered and fell, flames pouring from joints. The remaining 2 turned to retreat, but had led a team behind them, blocking the exit with burning barricades. They were trapped. It took another hour and every bomb bin had made, but finally, all 4 walkers lay in smoking ruins. On the ship, urged Commander to withdraw. This was supposed to be a simple test, he said. We have lost over 30 soldiers and 6 heavy machines. The erasure protocol has failed. Turned slowly, his 4 eyes burned with hatred. I will not retreat from animals. I will not be humiliated by creatures that still fight with fire and metal. Commander, please, the barrier is failing. Our power reserves are nearly depleted. If we stay much longer, we will be trapped here ourselves. Stared at the holographic image of Dusty Creek, such a small place, such simple people, yet they had him at every turn. Then I will end this personally, he said. Gather every remaining soldier, every weapon we have. We attack at dawn, and this time I lead the assault myself. In Dusty Creek, the people celebrated their victory, but Ho did not celebrate. He stood at the edge of town, watching the barrier. It was flickering. The light that had been solid for days now wavered like a candle in the wind. Whatever powered it was dying. We just need to hold a little longer, he said quietly. Just a little longer. Behind him, Sung ran up with excitement in his eyes. I got through, he shouted. The radio signal got through. Someone heard us. Ho turned. Who? I do not know, but they heard us. They know we are here. They are coming. For the first time in 3 days, Ho allowed himself to hope. The 3rd day of the siege dawned gray and cold. Fog hung over the ruined fields like a funeral shroud. The barrier flickered constantly now, its light growing weaker with each passing hour. In the church basement, 23 children waited in silence. Some of the younger ones slept on blankets spread across the cold floor. The older ones sat against the walls, listening to the distant sounds of gunfire and explosions. They understood enough to be afraid. Mrs., who was 75 and had bad knees, sat with them. She told stories about the old days, about her grandmother who had crossed an ocean to find a new home, about hard times that passed and good times that followed. Her voice was calm even when her hands shook. Every storm ends, she told them. Every night becomes morning, you remember that. Above ground, the town was preparing for the final battle. Had set up her medical station in the church hall. She had bandages, antiseptic, painkillers, and tools that she usually used on horses and dogs. 4 people lay on tables, wounded from the previous day's fighting. One man had lost his left hand to an alien beam. Another had burns across half his body. Worked without stopping, without complaining, without showing the fear she felt inside. One sat in a corner with her broken leg in a splint. She refused to stay down. She cleaned weapons, loaded ammunition, and organized supplies. When someone tried to make her rest, she just glared at them until they walked away. I have been running that diner for 40 years, she said. You think a broken leg is going to stop me? Sheriff gathered everyone who could still fight. 32 people. Some were old, some were young. Some had never fired a gun before this week, but they all stood straight and looked him in the eye. The aliens are coming, said simply. All of them. This is their last attack. If we survive this, we survive everything. And if we do not survive, someone asked. Ho stepped forward. His face was tired but hard. Then we make them pay for every inch. We make them remember what it cost to attack our home. We make them afraid to ever come back. No one argued. No one ran. They were farmers and shopkeepers and mechanics and grandmothers. They were ordinary people, but ordinary people pushed far enough could become extraordinary. The attack came at dawn. 50 alien soldiers marched out of the fog in perfect formation. Commander walked at their head, his personal guard surrounding him. He wore ceremonial armor that gleamed even in the gray light. He had conquered 12 worlds. He would not fail here. Behind the soldiers came 4 more walkers, smaller than the destroyed ones but still deadly. And above them, 3 flying machines circled like metal birds, their weapons ready. Ho watched from the mill. He had seen armies before. He had faced death before, but he had never seen anything like this. "Hold," he said quietly into the radio. "Wait for my signal." The aliens advanced through the ruined streets. They passed the burned remains of houses, the overturned cars, the barricades that had slowed them before. Nothing moved. No one fired. The town seemed empty. Commander smiled. They have finally surrendered. They have realized the foolishness of resistance. Sub-Commander was not so sure. "Commander, my sensors detect life signs. Many of them, they are hiding." "Cowards hiding in holes," said with contempt. "Flush them out, kill them all." The soldiers spread out, searching buildings, kicking down doors. They found empty rooms and abandoned supplies. Where had everyone gone? Then Ho gave the signal. The attack came from everywhere at once. From rooftops and basements and hidden trenches. From the trees and the creek and the old mine tunnels. Every able person in Dusty Creek opened fire at the same moment. The first volley caught the aliens completely by surprise. A dozen soldiers fell before their shields could activate. The rest scrambled for cover, but there was no cover. The humans had planned this perfectly. Every angle was covered. Every escape route was blocked. Commander screamed orders into his communicator. The walkers opened fire, their beams cutting through buildings and barricades. People died. Screams filled the air, but the humans did not retreat. Old Mr. Park stood behind his hardware store with a shotgun older than most of the aliens. He fired until his ammunition ran out, then picked up a rifle from a fallen friend and kept firing. A beam hit him in the chest. He fell without making a sound. Led his team against one of the walkers. They threw homemade bombs at its legs, dodging the return fire, losing 2 men but never stopping. The walker fell, and they cheered even as they bled. Ben had saved one last surprise. A truck packed with every explosive material she could find, aimed straight at the center of the alien formation. She drove it herself, jumping out at the last second like she had done before. But this time she was not fast enough. A beam caught her shoulder, spinning her through the air. She hit the ground hard and did not move. The truck exploded anyway. The blast was enormous, sending aliens flying, destroying another walker, killing a dozen soldiers in an instant. The shockwave shattered windows throughout the town. Ho saw his daughter fall. For a moment his heart stopped. Then he saw her move, saw her crawling toward cover, and the world started again. "Push forward," he shouted. "Do not give them time to recover." The battle became chaos, hand-to-hand fighting in the streets, guns firing at point-blank range, aliens and humans dying side by side in the mud and the blood. One had dragged herself to a window with a hunting rifle. Her broken leg burned with agony, but she ignored it. She aimed carefully and fired, aimed and fired, her grandmother's voice echoing in her memory. Every storm ends. Every night becomes morning. Commander watched his army crumble around him. This was impossible. These were primitives, animals. They should have been easy prey. But they fought like demons. They fought with a fury he had never seen in 12 conquered worlds. They fought for their homes, their families, their lives. They fought because they had no other choice. Then the barrier collapsed. It happened without warning. One moment the shimmering wall surrounded the town. The next moment it was gone, dissolving into the air like morning mist. Everyone stopped. Everyone looked up. In the distance a sound grew. A familiar sound to the humans, alien and terrifying to the invaders. The sound of helicopters, many helicopters. Sung's signal had gotten through. The outside world had heard. Help was coming. Sub-Commander grabbed his commander's arm. "We must retreat, now, before their military arrives." Stared at the approaching helicopters. His face was twisted with rage and disbelief. "No, no, I will not be defeated by." "Commander," shouted, "the mission has failed. We must report back. If we are captured, everything is lost." For a long moment stood frozen. Then slowly the fire in his eyes died. "Retreat," he said quietly. "All units retreat." The surviving aliens ran for their ship. They left their dead behind. They left their equipment behind. They ran like prey fleeing from predators. But Ho was not finished. He walked through the battlefield, stepping over bodies and debris, his rifle in his hands. His clothes were torn and bloody. His face was covered in dirt and ash, but his eyes were clear. Commander saw him coming and stopped. The alien commander and the old farmer faced each other in the ruined street. Was taller, stronger, armed with superior technology, but Ho did not care. "You came to erase us," Ho said calmly. "You came to wipe us out like we were nothing, like we did not matter." Raised his weapon. "You are nothing. You are insects. You should have surrendered when you had the chance." Ho smiled. It was not a happy smile. "We are farmers. We are mechanics. We are grandmothers and children. We are ordinary people who love our home." He raised his rifle. "And we do not surrender." The standoff lasted only seconds, but it felt like hours. Commander and Ho faced each other in the ruined street, surrounded by smoke and bodies and the distant sound of helicopters. Was confused. This human was old, wounded, exhausted. He had no armor, no energy shields, no advanced weapons, just a primitive rifle and worn hands. He should be trembling with fear. But Ho was not afraid. His eyes were steady. His breathing was calm. He had faced death many times in his life, and he had learned something important. Death came for everyone eventually. The only thing that mattered was how you stood when it arrived. Fired first. The blue beam shot toward Ho with deadly speed. But Ho had been watching, had been waiting. He moved the moment's finger twitched. The beam missed by inches, scorching the ground where he had stood. Ho fired back, once, twice, 3 times. The first shot hits weapon, knocking it from his grip. The second hit his shoulder, cracking the ceremonial armor. The third hit his knee, bringing him down. Screamed in pain and rage. He tried to rise, but his leg would not support him. He reached for a backup weapon on his belt. Sheriff appeared from nowhere and kicked it away. Bin limped up behind him, her shoulder wrapped in bloody bandages, a pistol in her good hand. Emerged from the shadows with 3 other farmers. One hobbled out on a makeshift crutch, her hunting rifle pointed its head. They surrounded the alien commander, the conqueror of 12 worlds, the leader of the Erasure Protocol. Now he was on his knees in the dirt of a small Kentucky town, surrounded by farmers and shopkeepers and one very angry grandmother. "You should kill me," said. His voice was bitter but proud. "I would kill you." Ho looked down at him for a long moment. He thought about Mr. Park, who had died defending his hardware store. He thought about the 2 young men who had died destroying the walker. He thought about all the fear, all the pain, all the destruction this creature had brought to his town. Then he lowered his rifle. "No," he said, "we are not like you." The military helicopters landed 20 minutes later. Soldiers in black uniforms poured out, securing the area, tending to the wounded, staring in disbelief at the alien bodies and destroyed machines scattered through the streets. A colonel approached Ho with wide eyes. "What happened here?" Ho was sitting on the steps of the ruined church, drinking water from a plastic bottle. He looked up at the officer with tired eyes. "They tried to erase us," he said simply. "We said no." The colonel looked around at the devastation, at the small-town people who had somehow defeated an alien army. He had no words. The surviving aliens were taken into custody. 17 soldiers and their commander, all that remained of the force that had attacked Dusty Creek. They were silent and defeated, unable to understand how their mission had failed so completely. But one alien asked to speak with the humans. Technician approached under guard, her hands raised in peace. She carried a data device filled with information. "I want to help," she said. I tried to warn my commander. I tried to tell him that humans were not what he thought. He would not listen. She handed the device to. This contains everything about our invasion plans. Fleet positions, weapon specifications, command structures, everything. Why? Ben asked suspiciously. Why would you help us? Looked at the ruined town, at the people who had fought and died and refused to give up. Because you deserve to survive. My people have conquered many worlds. We have never faced anything like this. Commander called you primitives, but I have studied you. You are not primitive. You are survivors, warriors. Your entire species evolved to overcome impossible challenges. She paused, her 4 eyes blinking in sequence. My people made a terrible mistake coming here. I do not want them to make it again. The days that followed were a blur of activity. News crews arrived from around the world. Government officials came to ask questions. Scientists examined the alien technology with amazement and fear. Dusty Creek became famous overnight. The small town that fought off an alien invasion. The farmers and grandmothers who defeated advanced technology with hunting rifles and homemade bombs. But the people of Dusty Creek did not care about fame. They cared about rebuilding their home. Volunteers came from across the country to help. Within weeks, one's diner was standing again, the smell of coffee and fried chicken drifting through the air once more. Mr. Park's hardware store was rebuilt by his nephew, who had never planned to return to the small town but now could not imagine leaving. Ben's shoulder healed slowly. She spent her recovery time studying the alien technology, working with government scientists to understand how it worked. She said it was the most interesting project she had ever had. Stage sheriff. Some people suggested he run for higher office, maybe governor or senator. He just laughed. Who would keep an eye on this town if I left? Sung became a minor celebrity, the young man who sent the signal that saved his town. He was offered jobs in big cities, positions at important companies. He turned them all down. He had found something more valuable than fame or money. He had found purpose. And Ho returned to his farm. His tractor still did not work. His fields were burned. His barn had taken damage in the fighting, but the land was still there. The soil was still good. He could rebuild. One evening, 3 months after the invasion, Ben found him sitting on his porch, watching the sunset. The sky was orange and pink, beautiful in a way that almost hurt to look at. She sat down beside him with 2 bottles of cold beer. For a while, they just sat in silence, father and daughter, watching the light fade. Think they will come back? Ben finally asked. Ho took a long sip of his beer. Maybe, probably. Universe is a big place. We made some enemies out there. Does that worry you? He thought about it for a moment. He thought about everything they had survived. The war in Vietnam, the hard years building the farm, the death of his wife, and now an alien invasion. No, he said, it does not worry me. Why not? Ho smiled, the lines around his eyes deepening. Because I know what we are capable of, all of us. When we are pushed, when we have no choice, when our backs are against the wall, we do not give up. We do not surrender. We find a way. He looked at his daughter, pride shining in his old eyes. We always find a way. Far away, in the cold depths of space, the Alien Council convened in emergency session. Representatives from 100 worlds gathered to discuss the disaster at Earth. Sub-Commander, now the highest-ranking survivor, presented his report. He spoke of the battle, the losses, the impossible resistance of a species that refused to accept defeat. He spoke of humans as he had never understood them before. They are classified as, he said, their planet is harsh, high gravity, extreme temperatures, constant natural disasters. They evolved to survive anything, to fight anything, to never ever stop. The council debated for days. Some wanted revenge. Some wanted to forget Earth existed. In the end, wisdom prevailed over pride. A new directive was issued. Earth was reclassified from primitive world to extreme threat, the highest danger rating in the galactic catalog. A warning beacon was placed at the edge of the solar system. It broadcast a simple message in every known language. Planet of avoid at all costs. Inhabitants will resist extinction with extreme prejudice. You have been warned. And in Dusty Creek, Kentucky, life went on. Children played in the streets. Dogs slept under porches. Old trucks sat in driveways with their windows down. The population sign at the edge of town had been updated. It now read 831, 16 fewer than before. But below those numbers, someone had painted new words in bright red letters. We are still here.